How is everybody doing? How is everybody? I wanted to discuss the issue of trade, international trade, American so-called trade war with close to 50 nations, if I'm not mistaken, and how President Donald Trump has won this trade war. And he's basically blow beating his enemies into submission. I must first start by saying that, look, when this trade war, if you want to call it that, began 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 3 months and a couple of weeks ago, a lot of people had some doomsday predictions about what that will do to the American economy and what will end up happening with regards to the trade balance of the globe. And a lot of the predictions have turned out to be 100% false. The American economy has thrived the past 3 months, adding hundreds of thousands of jobs month on month, having economic growth, amazing economic growth with no signs of recession as has been predicted by the doomsday predictors on national television like CNN, MSNBC, NBC, CBS, and ABC, and even as far as the media houses in Europe who hate Trump and his policies like Sky News, BBC, The Guardian, because there are very few media houses in the West that actually support what Trump is doing. Yeah, so, and subsequently now what has happened, there's been several countries who have yielded to President Trump, one of them being the Philippines, Indonesia, and the European Union, which obviously is not a country but is an economic bloc which involves more than 20 nations. I'm not sure the exact amount of countries. And I can actually just check for us now how many countries are in the EU, how many countries in the EU. We are told that currently there are 27 countries who are part of. Yeah, so that is, and so if you want just to estimate in terms of how many people are represented by there, that's around 300 to 350 million people, which is basically, the European Union is basically the size of the United States in terms of population, but its economy is plus or minus, it will probably be number 3 in the world. If it was considered as one economy, it would be number 3 behind the United States and China, and then the European Union will be number 3, which would mean that these 3 economies, if we consider the EU as one economy, are the most important economies in the world: the American economy, the Chinese economy, and the European Union economy. And so when Trump announced this deal that he has reached with the European Union, it makes it very difficult for others who are holding out to come to an agreement with the United States of America. But also, it actually shows that Trump has won. He has won. No matter how many predictions, bad predictions that people have made, Trump is simply winning this trade war. I mean, we can't go in full detail in terms of the rationality or the rationale of why President Trump imposed all of these tariffs on these nations. But one could just say, if I use South Africa, which is my country, as an example, is that South Africa has had long-standing tariffs on American goods, as much up to 45% import duties on American goods, when the United States does not charge even even half of that, if anything, for some of the goods. And so then the question then becomes then, when you are charging someone 45% import duties for their goods to enter your country, and then they respond in kind, how is it an injustice that they are now treating you the way that you are treating them? I think for me, that's really some of the things that I just find to be so bizarre, like some of the arguments that people make. Because the same can be said about the European Union in terms of the amount of tariffs and trade barriers and industry protections that they put on in terms of protecting their local industries. And then when the United States say, okay, now you also can't access our market, how then is that a bad thing? Because you are actually doing the exact same thing that he is doing. Not only you doing the exact thing that he is doing, he is responding to what you've been doing to him for the past 30 to 40 years. I think that's really one of the things that people are failing to recognize. Also, it's just, I also think that some of it, not all of it, is just a lack of honesty. We need to be honest. If you want to have free trade, then remove all of these tariffs that you have put on American goods. And that also includes the tariffs that the Chinese has on American goods. And the Chinese, it's not just that they have tariffs on American goods. The Chinese have tariffs on almost everyone. Everyone. It's the same thing with the EU. I know that President Trump says that the EU was formed for a particular reason of taking advantage of the United States. I think he's half right. The European Union was formed to take advantage of everyone. That's basically why they exist, in order to congregate, form this powerful bloc, and then they can have advantage whenever they are negotiating with any country in the world. And subsequently, they've been ripping off many of their trade partners in the world. So both the European Union and China has been ripping off their trade partners for the past 40 years. This is well documented. Yeah. So really, when I look at this and I'm saying, maybe sanity will come back to the world. We're going to see tariffs trending downwards, even if countries are going to reduce the tariffs that they're imposing on goods by 50% of what they were charging before. If you were charging the American automakers 40% in tariffs and then you reduce it to 20%, I find that as a success in terms of what Trump has achieved from where he started and where he is right now. Because if you're looking in terms of where the EU tariffs were for American goods, upwards of 14% and being reduced to 15%, that is incredibly successful, and that is just 100% objectively a win column for President Trump. So folks, if you put aside your disdain and dislike and hatred for President Trump, sometimes you just have to look at things objectively and say, okay, looking in terms of where they were before and where they are now, this is an objective win, which is the case. He has won. Also, what other people have failed to realize, which I think I stated in a video I made a couple of months ago, is that it is incredibly difficult to replace your trade partners because there are only a couple of economies or markets who are able to buy the goods that you are buying. So for instance, China, if China were not to be able to find a sort of understanding with the United States, there's only like one or two other economies in which they can sell what they are selling to the United States to, which is probably the EU and maybe Canada, Australia, but those people can't buy the things that they're selling to the United States at the rate that America is buying. So it becomes incredibly difficult to replace trading partners. So, and then this notion that, so especially in South Africa, people are saying that, okay, America is treating us unfairly, which is an opinion that is not based on fact. Let's replace our trading partner now and find someone else to sell our goods. Who's going to buy your goods? Because most of the nations in the world don't even have enough money. So the only people who can buy your goods are America, the EU, and China. Maybe to a certain extent, Canada and Australia. But even those economies that I'm naming, they've reached the quota in terms of how much they can buy. So how exactly are they going to replace what they are buying from someone else in order to buy what you are selling them because you are unhappy with America. That's going to take a very long time and is incredibly difficult. To illustrate this point even further, I would say look at what happened when NATO declared war on Russia, which is basically this war between Russia and Ukraine. We all know obviously that it's a proxy war between NATO and Russia. And Russia has and NATO or the EU has tried unsuccessfully tried to replace Russian oil and Russian gas to buy their oil and gas from elsewhere. But they are just unable to do it because it is difficult to replace markets or to replace trading partners, because you need to find someone who is ready to buy what you are selling or to sell to you what you need to buy at the rate and at the quality that the person you are replacing in order for this thing to actually make sense. Even reducing their reliance on on Russian oil and gas by 10% is incredibly difficult. Incredibly difficult. Yeah, so I know there's people in Africa that like to say, okay, we're going to look east now in order for us to be able to sell whatever it is that people want to sell. So, okay, you are looking east to who? To China. But China themselves are not trying to disentangle their economy from the United States, because they understand that disentangling their economy from the United States is just something that is not possible based on the limitations of who has the money to buy whatever it is that you are selling. So you're not going to look to the East in order for you to replace what you are selling to the United States. It's just not feasible. It's not practical. So you need to find a way to come to an understanding with the Americans. And that is what China is trying to do. That is what Canada and Mexico are trying to do. You need to try to find an understanding. Because these are the people who actually have the means to buy the things that you are selling. The same thing with China. When they are in a deep disagreement with the United States, they have to try to find a way to have an understanding, because they can't just stop selling their goods to the US, because no one else is going to be able to buy them at the rate that America is buying them. And also, when you are going into the open market, trying to replace your trading partner, your prospect trading partners know that you are in a weak position, and therefore the price that you can get is not the price that you would have previously been getting. And the terms that you can get also are not as good as... It is just so mixed with so many complexities that the idea that you can replace your trading partners is just not a sensible and reasonable position to have. And because of all of those factors that I've listed, Donald Trump has won this trade war. Donald Trump has, and if China and the EU are having an incredibly difficult time to back up to China, how much more are your small countries like South Africa with an economy of $400 billion, which is a very, very small economy? How much more are countries like Lesotho or Uganda or the Philippines or Indonesia, guys, or even Australia even? Like, guys, you can't fight with these people. It's just not possible. You can't. Yeah, so it's very important to be sensible about these things. Be realistic and be reasonable. That's really what put aside your feelings of hatred and disdain towards Trump and be reasonable. This issue requires reasonable minds, not feelings. Especially when it comes to business, because trade is business. You need to put aside your feelings. Decisions here are decided based on the merits, not on the feelings. And looking in terms of the nature of global trade, you are not going to be able to replace America as a trade partner. It's just not possible. Not right now in 2025. Maybe in 20, 30 years from now, if Africa stops effing around and they actually start becoming a serious economy. Like, for instance, if we have, out of the 50 nations that we have in Africa, 20 of them have economies that are more than $500 billion, just 20 of them. And then you have, like, say 10 of them that have economies that are around $1 trillion. What that would mean is that you have capacity to do more business with each other because you have more economic output locally, which means you have more consumer demand, which means that you can actually buy and sell to each other the things that you are producing. And then you'll have to rely less and less on America and China and the European Union. But when you are having situations where there are African economies who are as small, have economies as small as $10 billion, can you imagine? Can you imagine this? Economies as small as $10 billion, $20 billion, entire countries in Africa with economies that small, like you're not even a speck when it comes to the issues of trade and in a global perspective. Yeah, so really, right now you can't compete. Go to work. Maybe it's gonna take you 20 to 30 years. And then maybe going forward you might have a better negotiating position. Till then, oh well. See you later. Sure, folks, let me know what you think in the comments below.